Bangkok's floating markets feel like a parallel universe where the city decided, what if we just built everything on water? While most places debate pedestrian zones and food truck permits, Bangkok is out here running entire marketplaces on canals, complete with kitchens, cafes, convenience stores, and a traffic system that somehow works without rules. The wildest part? None of this is staged. People genuinely shop, eat, and live like this. And the whole thing runs with a kind of effortless logic that makes you wonder why more cities didn't evolve this way. So here are 12 things at Bangkok's floating markets that just make sense and will absolutely make you rethink what a market can be. 1. Boats that double as full kitchens. Most cities need food trucks, gas lines, and health inspections. Bangkok needs a boat. Vendors cook full meals on narrow wooden hulls, woks hissing, grills sending up thin ribbons of smoke, steamers breathing gently into the air, all of it balanced just above the canal. By any logical standard, the setup should fall apart. Instead, it runs with uncanny smoothness. Order noodles and the pan is already moving, the cook shifting their weight as the boat sways beneath them. Every corner of the vessel has a purpose. A cutting board wedged beside a fuel tank, herbs tucked under a bench, bowls secured with rope so they don't drift away. The person at the helm works with a kind of practiced ease, adjusting their stance the way a cyclist leans into a turn. A pot gets stirred, the hull gets nudged, the flame gets lowered, all in one continuous motion. Years of repetition show in the way they reach for ingredients without searching, trusting the layout of their floating kitchen the way a pianist trusts the keys. Then the aromas hit. Garlic blooming in hot oil, coconut milk warming into sweetness, grilled pork sending out a smoky trail that drifts across the water. The canal turns into a long, open-air kitchen where the breeze carries the menu before you even see the dish. No storefront, no signage, no branding. Just a person, a boat, and a recipe shaped by time. Street food reduced to its purest form. 2. A market where the shops come to you. At a floating market, you don't walk from stall to stall. The stalls drift past you. Fruit boats, noodle boats, coffee boats, dessert boats. A slow procession sliding along the canal, each one carrying its own little world. Stay on the dock long enough and the market unfolds in front of you, boat by boat, like a menu that keeps rearranging itself. The variety feels almost playful. A vendor paddles close enough to hand over grilled bananas without breaking her rhythm, and before you've even tasted them, another boat glides by with jars that clink softly as they move. A moment later, the smell of roasted coffee reaches you before the kettle does. The water doesn't just hold the market, it shapes it. It turns the canal into a moving corridor where vendors fall into a natural flow, drifting into place without anyone directing them. The whole scene feels more like an ecosystem than a commercial strip. Nothing pushes you forward. If you're not ready to order, the boat keeps drifting, and the next one eventually takes its place. The pace belongs to the water, and everything else follows. What you get is a kind of stillness inside motion, activity swirling around you while you remain anchored in one spot. Instead of navigating crowds, you let the market orbit you. It's a complete inversion of how shopping usually works, and somehow, it feels like the most logical version. 3. The pole and basket delivery system. When a boat can't pull close to the dock, vendors switch to a different kind of delivery. Long poles, woven baskets, and a level of coordination that borders on ritual. From afar, it looks almost casual. Up close, the precision becomes obvious. A small push sends the basket gliding across the surface, drifting straight into your reach as if the water itself is guiding it. Angle matters, current matters, even the slightest shift of the hull changes the trajectory, and the vendor compensates with tiny adjustments that come from years of repetition rather than conscious thought. Money goes in, the basket slides back, and a moment later it returns carrying hot food, balanced with improbable steadiness. No wobble, no splash, just a smooth exchange carried out in near silence. The moment lasts only a few seconds, but it creates a brief connection suspended between two worlds: land and water, stillness and motion. No rush, no awkward fumbling, no need for words. Two people complete a transaction with a calm efficiency that would collapse instantly anywhere else. Here, it's simply how things are done. A system shaped by daily practice until it became something quietly elegant. 4. Self-organizing boat traffic. No lanes, no signs, no traffic lights. Yet the boats manage to move with a confidence that makes the canal feel strangely intentional. They slide past one another with a quiet assurance as if everyone already knows where everyone else is going. From above, the scene looks like chaos, hulls crossing paths, paddles dipping in and out of the water. Step onto a boat, though, and the pace shifts. Movement slow, the noise softens, and the whole system reveals a kind of unspoken order. Vendors make tiny corrections with each stroke, adjusting by centimeters to slip through spaces that barely exist. Watch long enough and patterns start to surface. Large boats keep a steady line while smaller ones drift into openings that appear and disappear in seconds. A tap on wood signals a turn. A brief nod gives someone the go-ahead. A raised paddle means, hold on a moment. No one is directing any of this. No shouting from the shore, no hand gestures from an authority figure, no rules posted anywhere. Even visitors renting paddle boats get absorbed into the flow, their clumsy movements smoothed out by the rhythm around them. What stands out most is the absence of tension. No honking, no irritation, no sense of urgency. The canal moves at its own pace and everyone simply falls into step with it. Instead of traffic, you get something closer to a shared instinct. A pattern shaped by generations of people who learned to read water the way others read roads. 5. Dockside dining without the restaurant. A table isn't necessary here, the canal edge becomes one by default. Sit close to the water and food arrives straight from the boats, passed up with the same ease as handing something across a kitchen counter. Noodles, skewers, fruit, all lifted from water level to your hands in one smooth motion. The setting becomes part of the meal. Boats drift by like moving backdrops, each carrying its own smells and flashes of color. Flames flare under a wok just a few feet away, and the warmth from a steaming pot reaches you before the bowl does. Cooking happens within arm's reach. Ingredients hit the pan, metal scrapes against metal, herbs scatter into the heat. All of it unfolding in real time. By the moment the dish is passed up, it's still sending thin curls of steam into the air. Eating this close to the water slows everything down. Instead of leaning over a table or checking your phone, you end up watching the canal breathe. A boat gliding past as you take a bite, a quiet exchange between vendor and customer drifting over the surface. The rest of the world feels distant, like it's happening on the other side of a curtain. The whole experience settles into something steady and grounding. Less like dining out, more like slipping into the rhythm of the place itself. 6. Fruit boats that are also cutting stations. Watching a vendor slice a mango on a rocking boat is like witnessing a skill shaped by years rather than effort. The hull shifts, the water rolls beneath them, yet their hands stay steady. Peeling, cutting, arranging fruit with a calm that never breaks. The setup is almost bare. One knife, one board, a bucket of water. That's all they need to turn a mango into neat, fan-shaped slices in seconds. Movement never stops out here. The vendor adjusts without thinking, knees softening, weight shifting, body leaning just enough to stay balanced. It's not a performance, but it's impossible not to watch. Every motion has intention behind it. A rinse, a quick flick of the blade, fruit sliding into a banana leaf bowl with practiced ease. Nothing rushed, nothing wasted. Sunlight does the rest. Colors sharpen. Deep orange mango, pale guava, bright coconut. All catching the reflections bouncing off the canal. The fruit looks almost illuminated from below, and the taste hits with the same immediacy. Fruit cut moments before it reaches you has a softness that disappears the second it's chilled. There's a freshness that feels almost electric. No packaging, no machinery, no countertop. Just balance, muscle memory, and a boat that doubles as a cutting station. Craft like this stops you mid-stride, even if you weren't planning to buy anything. 7. Coconut everything. If something can be made from a coconut, chances are someone here has already figured it out. Ice cream, pancakes, drinks, bowls, spoons. The fruit becomes a toolkit, not just an ingredient. Fresh shells turn into serving bowls the moment they're cracked open, still cool from the shade of a boat's umbrella. Vendors scoop ice cream straight into them, the soft white flesh acting as insulation that keeps everything cold even under the afternoon sun. Look around and you'll spot piles of coconuts stacked high on boats, each one waiting for its next purpose. Drink, dessert, utensil, container. Some are opened with a single confident strike. Others are shaved down into smooth cups that feel almost crafted. The taste shifts when everything is this fresh. Coconut milk comes through richer, almost velvety, and the juice carries a natural sweetness that needs no help. Even the scent, faint, creamy, unmistakable, drifts across the canal whenever a vendor slices into a new one. Cracking a coconut becomes part of the market's rhythm. A sharp thud, a twist of the wrist, and suddenly, someone is holding a drink that was inside a tree minutes earlier. Because coconuts grow everywhere, prices stay low. You can sip from one for the cost of a bottled drink, and it somehow feels like the more generous option. Some vendors even carve small handles into the shells, turning them into cups you can carry around like a natural thermos. None of it feels curated or trendy. Nature provides the container, the utensil, the flavor. Renewable, practical, and perfectly suited to a market that floats. Sustainability isn't a statement here, it's simply the way things have always worked. 8. A soundscape that's surprisingly calm. Floating markets stay busy, yet the energy never tips into chaos. Voices settle into a low murmur, almost as if everyone agreed the water deserves a gentler tone. Vendors signal with small gestures, a nod, a wave, the soft tap of a paddle against wood. And somehow that's enough to keep everything moving. Sound behaves differently out here. The canal swallows sharp noises and smooths the rest into something softer. A pot bubbling on one boat, the scrape of a ladle on another, laughter drifting across the surface like it's been cushioned by the air. Nothing spikes, nothing jars. It all folds into a steady backdrop. Visitors adjust without being told. People who were loud on the walkway instinctively lower their voices once they sit by the water, as if the place itself is setting the volume. A shared quiet forms. Not silence, but a collective ease that everyone slips into. Instead of the usual market clatter, you get a low hum that wraps around the space. Everything is audible, yet nothing demands attention. The calm arrives gradually, and before you realize it, you're aware of how loud most places feel by comparison. 9. Naturally biodegradable packaging. Long before sustainability became a buzzword, floating markets were already running on a loop that didn't leave much behind. Banana leaves twist into plates with a single motion. Coconut shells step in as bowls sturdy enough for hot soup. Wooden skewers replace forks without ceremony or comment. What stands out is how ordinary it all feels. No labels, no eco-messaging, no signs announcing green choices, just materials that make sense because they grow within arm's reach. A vendor tears a leaf, folds it into a tray, and hands it over as if there were never any other option. Texture becomes part of the meal. Food on a leaf carries a faint, earthy scent. Drinks in coconut shells stay cool longer than anything plastic. Even the way these materials fade feels right. A leaf wilts, dries, and disappears without needing to be managed. Waste doesn't accumulate. Nothing hangs around long enough to become a problem. The market moves in step with its surroundings rather than pushing against them. Sustainability here isn't innovation or ideology, it's memory. A continuation of methods that worked long before the word sustainable existed. 10. Boats that park like shops. Certain vendors treat the dock like a curb and their boat like a storefront. A quick loop of rope, a practiced knot, and the drifting stops. The boat settles into place and instantly becomes a tiny floating shop. Once anchored, everything shifts. Umbrellas unfold, baskets get arranged, and the hull steadies just enough for customers to lean down from the dock and browse at eye level while the water taps gently against the wood. Each boat carries its own character. One might be stacked with fruit arranged in careful pyramids. Another might resemble a floating grill station with smoke drifting lazily into the air. Some feel like cafes, others like hardware stalls, and a few look like pocket-sized souvenir shops. Adaptability keeps the whole system fluid. If the crowd shifts or the sun creeps across the sky, vendors simply untie, drift a few meters, and settle into a new spot. Retail without walls, addresses, or permanence. The scene never feels fixed, more like a marketplace that breathes, adjusting itself to the water beneath it. 11. The floating convenience store boat. Every floating market has one boat that feels like a traveling general store. The kind that seems to carry half a town's necessities in a space barely big enough for two people. Cold drinks, snacks, hats, sunscreen, mosquito repellent, all stacked in improbable layers that somehow never collapse. The vendor knows exactly where everything lives. Ask for something specific, and a hand disappears into a crate, under a bench, or behind a basket, emerging with the item as if the boat were organized by instinct rather than shelves. Watching them work feels less like shopping and more like witnessing someone navigate a personal archive. These boats drift through the busiest stretches of the canal, filling the gaps between food vendors. They're the market's safety net, the place you turn when you forgot something, spilled something, or suddenly realized you need something you didn't think to pack. Interactions happen quickly and without fuss. A wave brings the boat closer. A few seconds later, the missing item is in your hands. No aisles, no searching, no waiting. Convenience here isn't a feature. It's simply built into the rhythm of the place. A person, a boat, and whatever you didn't know you needed until the moment you needed it. 12. A market that moves with the water. The market rises and falls with the water, adjusting itself without hesitation. Boats sit higher in the morning, lower in the afternoon, shifting with the tide as naturally as breathing. Vendors don't stop to reorganize. The water handles the adjustments for them. A land-based market would panic at a rising waterline. Here, it's simply part of the day. A vendor might drift a little, retie a rope, and keep serving customers as if nothing unusual happened. Adaptation is built into everything. Stalls stay dry because they float. Walkways stay intact because nothing is anchored to anything rigid. The entire place bends with the environment instead of bracing against it. Customers move with it too. Sometimes you step down to reach a boat, sometimes you step up. The market teaches you to follow the water's lead without thinking about it. Resilience here doesn't announce itself. Nothing is engineered to overpower nature. Everything is designed to move in step with it. That quiet flexibility is what keeps the whole place running. Bangkok didn't build floating markets to be quirky or Instagrammable. They exist because they're practical, a way of life shaped by canals, climate, and community. And once you see how effortlessly these markets run, it's hard not to wonder why more cities didn't evolve this way. It's simple, it's efficient, and it just makes sense.